And this is just some of their beliefs regarding the Mahdi. And of course, they have many other unorthodox and heretical beliefs. And this is not the time or place to really enumerate them here. We just want to summarize their point of the Mahdi. Now, a number of points that we need to make here and are worthy of our consideration with regards to their understanding of the Mahdi. Firstly, they claim that he is of the descendants of Al-Hussein. And Al-Hassan, the older brother of Al-Hussein, who gave up his Khilafah in favor of Muawiyah, the Shi'as don't really like Al-Hassan too much, even though they don't say so. Why? Because they feel that he gave up the battle. He gave up his Khilafah to Muawiyah, and he should have fought. So as a kind of retribution, they kind of took the Imamah away from Al-Hassan and his kids, and they gave it to Al-Hussein and his children. So according to the Shi'as, the Mahdi shall come from the children of Al-Hussein. And of course, they glorify Al-Hussein much, much more than they do Al-Hassan. They hardly mention Al-Hassan at all, even though the irony is, it was the Shia themselves who allowed Hussein to die the death that he did. The Shias invited Al-Hussein to Iraq, to Kufa, and they promised him, and they promised him, and they promised him, don't worry, we will take care of everything. We will fight, we will do this, we will do that. And when he came, they abandoned him, and he died the cruel death that he did. And there is no doubt that his death was a cruel and unjustified death. And the fact that the Shi'as have gone to extremes in their love for Al-Hussein and others does not mean that we do not love them. On the contrary, we love them the proper love, the real love. We love them because they were companions. We love them because they were grandchildren of the Prophet ﷺ, and we say nothing but good about them. But we also state that it is not a part of our religion to over-glorify them and to make them walking gods on earth and to give them powers that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. Verily, his death was an unjust and cruel death. But we do not glorify or worship these people besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, we believe that Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali and all of the companions, they had nothing but love and compassion for one another. And in fact, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu gave his own daughter in marriage to Umar ibn al-Khattab. How can the Shia explain this? How can the Shia explain this when Ali radiallahu anhu gave his own daughter? And this is something even they cannot deny. He gave his own daughter to Umar. What does this show you about the love of the companions for one another? Ali radiallahu anhu gave his oath of allegiance to Abu Bakr and then to Umar and then to Uthman. Never once did he stand up and say, no, I am more deserving of the Khilafah than you. He did not invent this. And in fact, the Shia Imams, these Imams that they look up to, the fact of the matter is that when you look at their beliefs, you find that they were Sunni in their beliefs. These lies that are concocted afterwards, they did not say them. None of these Imams ever said evil of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. None of them said so. In fact, why are the Rafida called Rafida? One of the names of the Shia is the Rafida. This is because one of the Imams, Imam Zayd, one of the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ, they came to him and they said, what is your opinion about Abu Bakr and Umar? He said, how can I say anything bad about Abu Bakr and Umar? They were the two viziers, they were the two companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And my own ancestor Ali cooperated with them. How can I say anything bad about them? So they left him. And he said, أَرَفَضْتُمُونِ, are you leaving me? Rafada means to leave and reject. And because of this, they were called Rafida. They left him when the descendant of the Prophet ﷺ himself, when their Imam refused to speak evil about Abu Bakr and Umar. So we believe that these Imams were pious people, that they never said what later groups claim them to have been said, and that all of this has been fabricated in their names. So the first point, as we said, is that the Shia believe that the Mahdi shall be from the descendants of Al-Hussein. However, for us, for the Sunnis, the stronger opinion is that the Mahdi shall be from the children of Al-Hassan and not Al-Hussein. And that is because, as we said earlier, Al-Hassan gave up his power for the sake of the Muslim unity. He gave up his own right of the Khilafah in order to avoid civil bloodshed. And so, as a blessing to him and to his progeny, there shall come from his line a leader and a Mahdi that the entire Muslim Ummah will be unified under. Secondly, and this is really a blatant point here, notice that the supposed Mahdi of the Shia, who of course historically he never existed, in the sense we said Al-Hasan al-Askari never had a son, but the name of this Mahdi is what? Muhammad ibn al-Hasan. And this is the one thing that really and truly proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is not the Mahdi, even though of course we don't believe any of this. But the most common characteristic and theme that is narrated about the Mahdi, as the Prophet ﷺ said, his name shall be my name and the name of his father shall be the name of my father. So the name of the Mahdi will be Muhammad ibn Abdullah and not Muhammad ibn al-Hasan. And how then can the Shi'as explain this? All of the explanations that they give are weaker than a spider's web. Another group of the Shi'as is known as the Ismailiyya and also called the Batiniyya. They are called Ismailis because their lineage of Imams splits from that of 12 Imams at Ja'far al-Sadiq. Ja'far al-Sadiq was the 6th Imam. Ja'far al-Sadiq had one son called Ismail and a younger brother of Ismail called Musa al-Kazim. Ismail died during the lifetime of his father. Hence, he could not be an Imam after him. But the Ismailis believe that he did not die and that he remained living and that he is the real Imam after Ja'far. So they are called Ismailis. And the rest of the Shi'as, because Ismail died, they believed in another Imam called Musa al-Kazim. And so many are the groups that came after the split within the Shia. This is one of the first and earliest splits of the Shia. In fact, in the latter part of the 3rd century of the Hijrah, a person by the name of Ubaydillah ibn Maymun al-Qaddah appeared from Syria and made his way to northern Africa. And he started preaching an esoteric version of Shi'ism, an extreme heretical branch of Shi'ism. And he started gathering a following bit by bit until finally he managed to conquer Al-Maghrib in 296 Hijrah. And he even built a city called Al-Mahdiyya, where he died and is buried to this day. He claimed to be the Mahdi, and he claimed to be of the descendants of Ismail ibn Ja'far. He claimed to be of the Al al-Bayt, and he claimed he was the Mahdi. Of course, his name was Ubaydillah ibn Maymun, nothing to do with the name of the Mahdi, but when you get to that extreme level, people lose track of all of reality. And so he claimed to be the Mahdi, and he started preaching his extreme heretical version of Shi'ism, and his followers after his death continued to spread his ideas and teachings until finally they even conquered Egypt in its entirety, and they founded the Fatimid Empire. They were the ones who first built the city of Al-Qahira, Cairo. Cairo was first built by the Ismailis, by the people who believed in this Mahdi / type of God, even because of the powers that they give him. And they were the ones who firstly founded Al-Azhar University. Of course, these people were complete heretics. They did not fast, they did not pray, they did not go for Hajj. Their beliefs had nothing to do with Islam. Hence, when Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi came, he first turned his attention to the Fatimids, and he got rid of the Fatimids before turning his attention to the Crusaders. So Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi came and conquered Egypt from them in the year 568 Hijrah. They ruled Egypt for almost 200 years. And he converted Al-Azhar University from the Shia, or from the Ismaili version of Islam, and to the general fold of the Sunnah. However, the teachings of this group remained, even though their actual dynasty was destroyed. And the teaching of this group survived and manifested itself in quite a few groups. And once again, it is beyond the scope of this lecture to go into a lot of detail about these different groups, but just for interest's sake, some of these groups that spawned from the Ismaili heresy are the Nusayris or the Alawis of Syria. They're called Nusayris and Alawis, both of them are the same name. The Duruz of Lebanon, the Aga Khanis, who are primarily based in India and Pakistan, and the Bohris, who are based in India, and also they have a branch in Yemen as well. These are some of the groups that are existent in our times, and they are a direct offshoot of this branch of Ismaili Islam. Yet another group of the Shi'as is the Zaydiyya, and this group is still existent as well, and it is concentrated in parts of Yemen. The Zaydiyya, or the Zaydis as they're called in the English literature, are actually the closest of the Shia groups to Ahl Sunnah Wal-jama'ah, and they're also the most open-minded amongst them. They believe that any descendant of Fatima can be an Imam as long as he is a pious person. So they do not have a strict hierarchy of Imams, unlike the other types of Shi'as. And some of them consider that any successful Imam who founds a dynasty or who founds a rule of law can be considered to be the Mahdi. So they have more than one concept of Mahdi, in the sense that they believe that there can be more than one Mahdi, and anyone who teaches the teachings of the Zaydis and he establishes some type of rule and power can be considered to be a Mahdi. And these are some of the groups of Shia Islam who hold the opinion about the Mahdiship.